Hi, hello, and welcome to our very exciting webinar today, Maximizing Customer Lifetime Value, a full funnel approach. I am so excited to get into this conversation with all of you today. My name is Jess Steinbach. I'm a moderator here with SmartBrief, and today's webinar is sponsored by Fetch and produced by SmartBrief. And the reason I'm so excited to get into this conversation with all of you today is because I love these panels where we get to step away from the slides and we get to just dive into what is exciting to our expert presenters. And the discussion that we are about to embark on together today is going to help you discover how you can engage customers at every stage of the journey, driving that repeat purchase, increasing brand recognition, and ultimately boosting customer lifetime value. Now, with the help of our wonderful expert panelists, who I will introduce in just a moment, we are going to identify actionable insights and proven strategies that can transform your approach to customer retention. So whether you are looking to enhance your loyalty programs, maybe you're here to refine your segmentation strategies or deepen those customer relationships, our conversation today is going to equip you with the tools to maximize the value that each customer brings to your brand. I know that you are going to have a lot of questions as we get into our conversation today. There is so much to explore, and we want to hear from you as we go through this conversation. The whole point of our day today is to have this fun and interactive conversation. So I want to start out with a little bit of a tour of your audience console. Make sure that you're set up to get all of those questions in. So let's start by finding that questions window. So it's right there next to the handouts tab. Click over to the questions window and give us a hi, give us a hello. Let us know how you're doing today. We want to hear from you as we go through our session. Now, I do want to also point out that that questions window is the best place to let us know if you're having any technical issues. Hopefully this does not come up, but if the gremlins have gotten in your system today, somebody definitely fed them after midnight. I get it. It happens from time to time. Here's your first step. Try a browser refresh. I promise that a browser refresh is going to clear most of those gremlins out. But if that doesn't work, you can reach our team by posting right there in that questions window, and we will be there to help you out. All right, so we talked about the questions window. The next stop I want to point out is the handouts tab. Make sure that you visit that handouts tab, click in and explore those resources. There are some really wonderful takeaways that are going to help you follow up on everything that we are about to learn in this exciting conversation. So make sure you spend some time in that handouts tab. And if all of that wasn't enough to put a smile on your face, I've got one more piece of excitement for you, and that is that we have a $250 Amazon gift card as a prize drawing at the end of our webinar. Now, you do need to be here in live attendance in order to win that prize, and all winners must meet the SmartBrief prize terms and conditions. If you're not sure what those T's and C's are, we have them linked for you in the handouts tab. So head on back over to that handouts tab, scroll down to the bottom, and you will find all of that waiting for you there. All right, well, I do want to take a quick second here and introduce our wonderful sponsor to all of you a little bit more. If you haven't connected with Fetch already, I think you're really going to enjoy learning a little bit more about them today. Fetch is a full funnel platform that boosts brand loyalty and retention and drives repeat purchases through rewards and gamification. How cool is that? If you'd like to learn a little bit more, I would highly recommend that you spend some time exploring Fetch, both on their website, also visit their LinkedIn, reach out, get connected, and learn a little bit more about our wonderful sponsor. Speaking of which, though, I think it's time that we jump into this conversation because we have so much to cover, and I cannot wait to bring out our wonderful expert panelists here with us today. We have Rich Rodriguez Mahe. Rich, a seasoned marketing leader and fractional CMO, has extensive experience in CPG and food and beverage companies. Rich brings a wealth of experience and a track record of success across startups. I love that, Rich. I'm big on the startup, innovation, program management, and strategy development. Rich has held global and domestic leadership roles with extensive experience in both Latin America and North America, serving in management positions at Frito-Lay and PepsiCo, where he honed his expertise in brand strategy and advertising. Rich, welcome. Very happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Jess. Thanks for making me blush.
It's my job. I get to embarrass you a little bit at the start, and then I'll grill you. Joining Rich today is Robin Wheeler. As Chief Revenue Officer, Robin Wheeler spearheads Fetch's sales organization. Over her 20-year career, she has led revenue teams at major social and traditional media companies. Prior to joining Fetch, she held several leadership positions at Twitter, most recently as VP of US Client Solutions, where she worked with some of the country's biggest brands. No kidding. Rich and Robin, those both of you bringing a ton of experience here with us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jess. Excited to be here.
Well, we got lots to cover today. We got lots to dig into. I think it's probably about time that we jump in and start getting into our conversation. Robin, I am going to put you in the hot seat to start out because I gave a very, very brief introduction of Fetch, and there's so much more that I want to spend some time exploring as we dig in. So, Robin, could you give us sort of a high-level overview of Fetch as a full funnel platform? What do we mean when we say that? And how is Fetch different from other solutions that we have in the market today?
Sure, absolutely. I will start off by saying if you are not using Fetch or you haven't downloaded it yet, please do that right now. It's a free app. We are America's rewards platform. We are the overwhelming category leader in terms of size and engagement and scale. But every day, consumers come to our platform to find out what to buy, where to shop, where to eat, so that they can earn Fetch points. They scan their receipts, whether that's physically or digitally, linking an Amazon account, an email, an Instacart account, and then they earn points based on what they've purchased. And then they can go on to redeem those points for gift cards in the form of, for retailers, you can get an Amazon gift card, Sephora, Starbucks, travel, you can give back to charities. And they're so passionate about earning these points that consumers are scanning roughly 88% of their household's purchases in any given month. So they're scanning every receipt that they see. And that gives us a really unique view of the consumer because we have that full picture. So we know if Jess goes to Target to buy her personal care, but then she goes to Walmart to buy her groceries, we can connect the dots and we know that that's that same person. So that's a really unique perspective that we have. And we use all of that data to then send precise targeting through the form of advertising and offers to drive outcomes for our partners. So we work with CPGs and retailers and restaurants to help them drive incremental sales, incremental trips, you name it. So that's really what makes us different, right? Is the data that we have in the picture, the 360 view of the consumer that's differentiated from some of the other platforms out there. The other thing that I think is important to call out is that my previous life, I was at a social network. So social networks or video platforms, CTV, those consumers are going to those platforms to do something else, to view content. On our platform, the content is the ads, right? They are coming here every day and they are sharing their receipts and their purchases with us so that we can give them even more customized and personalized offers. And so that's really a differentiator for us because of the mindset that the consumer is coming to us in. So we reach demographically, we're pretty consistent with the US Census, but we over-index on the younger generations, Gen Z, millennial, because it's fun, it's gamified. We make it really easy to earn points and save money. So that's us.
No, that's a big and exciting. I'm really liking the gamification of that, Robin. That seems like a really effective. Like I'm already. By the way, also I live in Canada now. I can't shop at Target, so that's just salt in the wound. But that sounds really exciting.
It's awesome. Soon we'll be up there. We'll be coming your way.
And thank you. Yes, please. And those reaching those demographics and collecting data on those demographics, I think that's a really important differentiator is that data. And I'm wondering, Rich, if I can tag you in there because from your marketing ears, I'm sure they're just perking right up and talking about collecting that data. Can you talk to us a little bit about the value, the importance of understanding the customer lifetime value for a brand and why our audience members, if they're not already doing this, should be prioritizing that overall impact of having a CLV that makes sense for these consumers?
Sure, absolutely. Look, I mean, it gets down to it's so much cheaper, easier, and makes so much more sense to maintain a customer happy regardless of what industry you're in, but especially when we're talking about consumable products. Once somebody knows the brand that they like, and there's some kind of you've eliminated the doubts and the is this going to taste good? Is this going to be good for my hair? Is this going to work for me? Once you've eliminated that, it's the barriers are down, so consumers are way more likely to repurchase, and it's cheaper usually. Now we are seeing consumers being less and less loyal these days, so giving them an extra incentive to continue purchasing you is key. And from what Robin mentioned, yeah, my ears perk up. I get excited about data and understanding my consumers, and I'm super intrigued to understand what else they buy besides my products. In order to inform future campaigns, or in order to understand what my true competitive set is.
Yeah, I think that's more and more true with any industry right now, is that we start from a place of knowledge and understanding that data, data is king. We hear that, over and over and over again, but it is so vital and important, and really extending that beyond just what you do in our tiny sphere, but, really widening that lens. So I'd like to, ask you to dig in on that a little bit more, Rich. And I do want to come back to, by the way, you also said brand loyalty, and I'm really excited to explore that a little bit with you guys later on. So hang on to that thought. But Rich, talk to us a little bit about how important it is for brands. And I'm going to ask you to kind of weigh in a little bit on the breadth of the industry, from large businesses to small businesses, and maybe, potentially even looking at that startup phase. How important is it for those organizations of any size to be able to identify the high value customers early in that journey, when we're looking at the overall customer lifetime value strategy? How important is that early identification step?
Oh my God, it's huge. If that's a big kind of mystery, if you can figure out who your highest ticket buyers and the most loyal and the most likely to spend more on your brand are early, then it's going to save you, and it's going to pay off in dividends in the long run. So yes, that's paramount to any brand. Even I would argue more so the smaller, scrappier startups, because their budgets are more limited. I come from the PepsiCo world, where we were very fortunate to have larger budgets, and we could do a new launch and kind of blast it everywhere. But now I'm working with smaller companies, and it's even more critical to figure out who's most likely to get excited about your product.
Well, and when we're thinking about that, I'm kind of wondering, so, you've identified a few things that maybe a smaller company and a larger company would be looking for. And what I'm hearing from you on that is there's not one answer that works for everyone. And Robin, I think maybe this might be something that I'd like you to weigh in on a little bit, because when we're talking about data collection, I do think sometimes smaller companies think, this is not for me. We don't have the resources to collect this data. We don't have the resources to do anything with the data, even if we were collecting it. So, what would you maybe say to that startup or smaller business?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I keep seeing this quote that everybody's data rich and insight poor, right? There's plenty of data, but how do you really glean that to get to the insights that matter most? And especially with the evolution and the entry of like AI models and machine learning, there's even more data. We can get better at, mining the data and gleaning the insights. But I think one of the keys is to leverage platforms and partners that can help you do that, right? Of course. So I love how Rich said, of course, if we can find people that are going to be our best customers, how do we clone them and create more of them? So I like to think of Fetch as really leveling the playing field as it relates to both big and small. We have partners of all sizes on our platform who leverage the model that we have. So you come in here and you would say, for example, if you're Olipop, they've used us in the past for awareness driving. They know they're coming after more of a healthy mindset consumer who is still potentially buying in the soda category. No offense, Rich. I know this is like a competitor of your old world, but And
I'm taking.
how can we leverage the behavior that they have for buying other things if they're buying healthy, alternatives, to then use that to signal, hey, this person's probably interested in a healthier beverage. And so we have a pay for performance model. So you pick your targets, right? And so Olipop can come in here and say, I want to target all the big brands. I want to target the soda drinkers of competitors, but I also want to target people who are healthy eaters, making healthy choices. And we have the ability, based on, again, the purchase data that we see, to be able to segment that out. And then you only pay when someone scans a receipt that has your product on it. So it's, you're literally paying for performance. So it's the investment is going to drive an outcome, which makes it a little bit of an easier pill to swallow for some of the smaller brands. It might not have the massive budgets, but the insights that we're able to leverage in order to drive that performance is the same that we would use for a big brand. So it really helps to give you an edge if you are a smaller brand. Allows you to really target those Goliaths.
I love that, because
Robin, to that point, can you help smaller brands also build their own audiences? Like if I'm coming from a small brand, I don't have insights, I don't really know yet. Can you help me figure that out with Fetch?
Yes. So as you're running this campaign, we will be able to tell you, oh, look, you are shifting share from XYZ Goliath, or this is the retailer that we're seeing that truly resonates with your purchases. Maybe they're being bought at mass or convenience and gas. We'll be able to tell you that as the campaign runs, and certainly at the end, where we're seeing certain things happen. We can do a basket analysis. What else is in there? That are they really buying other healthy foods, or maybe not? Right. But we'll be able to help you kind of paint that picture of what that consumer personality ethos really is based on their purchases.
Awesome.
It's dreamy, right, Rich?
You can see Rich's little hearts floating around. It's for anyone that's been in the innovation space and in that startup space, and Rich, you've got a lot of experience there. Like I think it's so easy to think that's a someday. That's a we'll do that in phase 2. And what I'm hearing from Robin is that, and especially with Fetch, this becomes possible in day 1, and not just possible. I mean, it potentially is the thing that allows you to get to phase 2. It's the leg up. It's the momentum.
Yeah. And one of the things that I should mention is there's platforms out there that can help you to, have shorter term goals of like moving a bunch of units for a particular period of time. And we can definitely do that as well. Hey, Fetch, I need to move X amount of units at Target because I'm facing a potential delisting challenge. Yes, we can help that. Or we're doing shelf renegotiations, and I want to, best position my CPG to be able to win with these conversations. We can do all that, but our superpower, because of the way the consumers are using the platform, they're coming every day, they are scanning every single receipt, they're fully engaged, and they want to be rewarded. And when they are rewarded, they're going to continue to make that purchase and choose that brand. We're able to really drive a longer term behavioral change versus just a short term quick hit. I'm seeing an incentive and I'm acting as a result. It's really going to help you over time, which again goes back to driving more insights over time that can help refine your marketing strategy overall, not just on Fetch.
And that I think actually is where I'd like to spend a little bit more time exploring there, Robin, is talking about that overall lifetime value. Rich was walking us through that a little bit earlier. But can I ask you to kind of explore that a little bit more with us, and how Fetch is integrating those various stages from awareness through to conversion, gamification being a great one. I'm very susceptible to that. I have to say, I know I'm being marketed and I still want those points. So talk to us about Fetch's plan there.
Yes. I mean, I like to talk about the origin story as well. Our founder and CEO was in college and was financially independent on his own, right? And so he's sitting there figuring out, how am I going to save money, and where can I get the best deals, and where can I get the best rewards? Who's gonna fight for my kind of consumer? Who's gonna fight for my dollar, really? And so he was frustrated that he had to go in so many places to figure out where to save or where to earn. And so that's enter fetch. He wanted somebody to go out and fetch those offers for him and fetch those deals, et cetera, make it easier. And so that's exactly like the impetus of how we started. And so people are coming in here with a leaned in mindset, looking for suggestions. And so that said, you really have to start with the data. And we, again, have that complete picture that it points about a person and what stage they're in. So are they already buying the category? If they are they buying your brand? Maybe they're just buying competitors. That could signal that potentially they're not even aware of your brand, right? So maybe that's an awareness challenge that exists. Are they already buying within your brand portfolio, but they're not buying that particular product? We see this a lot with CPG companies trying to launch new innovations, right? If you have a master brand and you've got a customer buying that, how do we get them to try this new innovation? Maybe that's more consideration. And so Fetch has a variety of products within our toolkit to help for every stage of the purchase funnel. Although I argue the purchase funnel is shrinking and getting smushed, and so I want Rich to weigh in on that as well. But we have video within the main page right when you open the app. We have carousels, and there's a video asset that when it's clicked, it takes over the whole page. It's a big vertical video that can help tell the brand story. It can provide a little more intel on the product benefits, right? If it's a new innovation, if it's an awareness play, and then it leads you through to the offer. So it's the true like awareness tied with the lower funnel of getting someone through and purchasing. The offers are our product ads. They are at various point levels. Again, they are going to be targeted to somebody based on their existing behavior. So if I'm already a brand buyer, to Rich's point, these people are really valuable, but we want them to buy more, and we want them to buy more often. Yeah. So if I'm usually buying 2 toothpastes, I'm only going to get rewarded if I buy 4, right? And so that's what drives that incrementality and continues to repeat the behavior. And so that's driving action. And then we have kind of an always on offer product that we have that helps drive that loyalty. It's a little bit of a lower point value when the consumer is going to pick that product at the shelf. So it's lower cost to the brand, but it, again, is still a reward for the consumer. So it drives that loyalty. And then lastly, we have clubs. Currently, General Mills is a great example. They run their Good Rewards program within Fetch. And you log in whenever you're on Fetch, you'll get served an ad to join the club, and you get special offers from General Mills that are only available to Good Rewards members. And they came to us because they really wanted to help drive cross-portfolio penetration. So like a lot of CPG companies, we've got people buying 2 or 3 brands, but we want them to buy 4, 6, 7, 8. Sure. And so that's a great way to yeah, exactly. And that's a great way to leverage Fetch as well. Because again, back to the origin story, people are coming here to find out what should they be joining? How should they save more? And who do they want to be loyal to? And this is a great way to kind of capitalize on that mindset.
Rich, I am going to tag you in next, and I do want to come back to, and I think we're going to kind of get in and explore a little bit of the shape, the ever-changing shape of our conversion funnel. But I'm wondering, on that note, and sort of in the context of the world we live in, everything's changing all the time. I think the opportunities are evolving, so are the challenges. So let's talk a little bit about, we're going to go to the dark place real quick, and then we'll find solutions for it. But let's talk a little bit about the key challenges that you're seeing brands facing in terms of identifying and then reaching those first-time buyers and really managing loyalty in this very noisy, fast-paced marketplace that we're in.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, but the first one that comes to mind is the cost of media, right? Media is climbing, and just because you serve somebody an ad doesn't mean that it's going to be effective, because to your point, we're bombarded by media, more than ever. That compounded with the macroeconomic challenges, where consumers are being squeezed, and particularly in the grocery aisle. People just feel like I just need to stop. I need to shop less, or I need to trade down, or guess what? I'm gonna not buy a beverage a branded beverage. I'm gonna just drink water at home, because holy shit, I can still hydrate that way. So it's becoming ever more challenging from a macroeconomic perspective, from the amount of noise out there, and there's also a changing consumer. So Gen Z has its own purchasing habits and beliefs and just ethos that that is making marketers continue to evolve.
So true.
They're wrong.
But that's why we have jobs, right, Rich?
Yeah, exactly.
Challenges mean we're here to stay. Yeah.
Every new generation that comes in, all their new language, their new habits, all that, you guys are like, score. Yes, got it. Job security.
Maybe not the
Not
language
replaced
part.
by AI yet.
Well, okay, but Robin, let's bring you in, and especially from what you've seen with Fetch, I'm curious what you think the kind of main challenges are that you've seen brands facing. And again, we're talking about identification and then actually reaching those first-time buyers. And I said we're going to go to the dark place, and we're going to get hope. Give us a little hope. How is Fetch helping us overcome some of those challenges?
Yeah, of course. So I agree with everything Rich said, generations as well as the squeeze on the consumer. It's certainly very, very top of mind and relevant in the macro environment. One of the other things we hear from our partners is that it's really hard for brands to accurately figure out who is truly new to brand. So one of the reasons why I was so excited to come be a part of Fetch is because I know I'm a broken record, because we have that unique 360 view of the consumer. So a lot of partners out there will tell a CPG manufacturer, for example, this is a new client, this is a new customer that we're seeing for you, but it's not new. It was just new buying it at that retailer, for example. So Fetch knows that if you bought a product at Walgreens and then you go and buy it at Kroger, you're not new. You're just new at Kroger. So that's been a really differentiator for us to be able to help really, truly identify who is new to brand. We also work with several retailers or restaurant companies who want to potentially suppress their existing CRM around their customers, and we can do that. So we do a match, and we'll then suppress them from any future campaigns, just to make sure that we aren't, targeting people who already are their existing buyers. Retail, restaurant have more CRM data or a more accurate picture.
That's a mistake.
Yeah. Go ahead. You're like, reach them all, get them, go get the existing ones, right?
I mean, I understand that, you might not be up for spending the same amount of money for repurchase, but it's so much cheaper. It should be so much cheaper to retain somebody and to encourage them to purchase your product again. Yes. We all know that a deal drives sales. So
that's right. And we have a way to ensure that it's incremental, right? So a lot of times people are like, don't subsidize my existing purchase, but we won't, from that example I gave earlier, because we know how much you're going to purchase on a regular basis, and we will only reward you if you purchase more. So I love that, Rich, and I agree. And oftentimes our clients will agree with that, but sometimes they just want to reach new to brand. And so it's hard for folks to do that. Yeah. But I definitely agree with you. And one of the trends we're actually seeing with some of our restaurant clients is that they want us to catch a buyer before they become lapsed. So they actually are speaking your language. They're like, it's almost too expensive to go get a new. Let's go after those that are starting to lapse before they actually lapse, and give them a reason to come back in. And so that's, again, really a great way for us to tap into what we're seeing in purchases. Maybe they were purchasing once a week, then it became once a month. And how do we get in there before it then becomes once every 6 months? So you're exactly right.
I was just enjoying this back and forth so much. I think I love that point, actually, and that it sounds like what Fetch allows you to do is both really sort of grow your existing base and deepen your relationship with your existing base, as well as pulling back someone that might be on the fringe, as well as getting the new people in. So you're hitting at all phases. So you're making Rich happy, which is what we're trying for. The whole purpose of this webinar.
You want Rich to be happy. Yes, exactly.
The
other thing is like, if you think about cost, right? So I love what you're saying. I was actually on a panel a couple of weeks ago with a client from Mars, and he was saying the same thing. He's like, look, if we're trying to get all these new people, but the strategy may actually be double down on our brand buyers and get them to spend more, because that's, quicker path to victory, so to speak. So it's a balance. I don't envy y'all in your challenge of like balancing, because everybody still needs new, but balancing that with the ever efficient way of getting more from your existing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. And the development, the point in the brand development cycle that a brand is will also dictate a lot whether it makes more sense. Obviously, if you're a newer brand, everybody's new, and yes, the name of the game is called trial. But if you're an established brand or you're an established player, then the repurchase is kind of where it's at.
So Rich, on that note, if we were going to tag you in to offer some solutions, if you had sort of a key piece of advice to offer to a brand, what would that be? What solutions would you be suggesting that they be thinking about?
Well, I think two things. One is figure out what your development stage is, and what's most important to you right now. But always, I talk to so many brands that they've thought out their acquisition funnel very thoroughly, and then I'm like, well, what about repurchase? How do you continue to engage those consumers? And they're like, oh shit, sorry.
Like, oh, that?
You could see the deer in the headlights, like, oh yeah, we have to think about that as well. So my biggest piece of advice is don't forget them.
Don't forget. Well, okay, actually, I think that segues, and in particular, repurchase, I think is going to segue really nicely into my next question for you, Rich, because I'm wondering about on the brand side of things, and from what you've seen, how can a brand actually quantify the impact of loyalty on overall business performance and revenue growth? Because I think sometimes we start to feel like maybe either there's too many metrics, we don't know which ones to look at, or we don't feel like there are metrics. So what sort of metrics are most important, do you think, for a brand to be aware of?
Well, I think Robin makes a very compelling point. By being able to understand, regardless of what retailer one human has gone to, whether they are a repurchaser or not, that's a very compelling, powerful piece of information that Fetch is sitting on, because historically it was a lot harder to understand that behavior, and you have to kind of do mental math, or back of napkin math, funny math, to understand that.
Yeah, to really use that data to, it's like self-reporting. We're terrible self-evaluators, right? But our behavior indicates. Yep. And so you're using the data to get the truth of what the consumers are going to do, rather than what we tell you we're going to do, which is probably not going to be right.
Consumers lie all the time. Mm-hmm. Consumers lie all the time.
Yep.
So yeah, never ask them whether they've purchased this before, whether they would purchase your product. You have to ask other ways. You have to do it a little more creatively to get to more honesty. I think it's what you want to hear.
Well, and everybody wants to be healthy, so they're going to say that, and then they go and buy products that don't maybe. But that's usually for our kids, not for us.
Of course, yeah. Never your kids' snacks.
Never, yeah. Well, and we answer aspirationally, right? We answer in the way we want to believe that we live in this world. Yeah, exactly. Rather than who we actually are in this world. Rich, I'm going to ask to maybe get a little bit specific on tech, because that's a really interesting, we were chatting earlier about just how fast things are moving, and that conversion funnels are changing and brand loyalty is changing. So there's lots that's changing right now. And I said I wanted to come back in particular to brand loyalty, because I'm very interested in that and how that has evolved. So in your experience, what are you seeing different brands doing in terms of leveraging technology and data analytics in order to both understand, and in a perfect world, we're also able to predict customer loyalty behaviors?
Well, with AI being everywhere these days, we're able to understand, or we will be able to understand very quickly, and predict with way more efficiency and efficacy future behavior, right? So the AI models can take in so many variables that historically we weren't correlating to purchase. So I think that's the biggest thing around the bend from a marketer's perspective. Now, the reality is that AI is going to favor the big guys first. So making sure that the smaller brands have some ability to leverage that data to get exposure to the data and to take decisions with more data, because it's funny, Robin mentioned that there's like, what was it, a plethora of data and not enough insights. The smaller guys don't even have as much data to play with, right? And let alone somebody who can help them organize it and glean true insights from it. I've talked to smaller brands that, like, believe it or not, I've never talked to a consumer. Wait, what? I had a potential client that did a brand redesign without ever talking to consumer. And I was like, wait, what? So you don't know why somebody would buy your competitive product either? And they're like, no. Oh, okay, cool. We got work to do.
You're like, I can help. I've got some ideas.
Superhero cape on. That's wow. That's so interesting. I get it, and have a background and started myself, and I remember those days, and how easy it is to make those mistakes because you're running this race, and you think so you don't need to stop and ask.
Intuition, yeah.
But I'm wondering, Rich, I'm going to ask you to just explain a little bit, because I think, you said AI is going to benefit bigger businesses to start. I think a lot of what people are hoping for is that AI is the democratization of technology and data because of its accessibility. Why do you make that distinction that you think it's going to hit the big players first?
So I think, yes, eventually it will be the great equalizer. Mm-hmm. But companies just have more resources. More access to bigger data sets and more access to data scientists that can play and build their own ring-fenced data that the smaller guys just don't have are privy to.
Yeah, which, Robin, I'm hoping maybe you can help us out a little bit there too, because we were talking about Fetch being able to really hit on all these different size industries. And I want to talk to you a little bit about metrics and analytics and data. And if you could give us some insight on the KPIs that brands should be focusing on in order to actually measure the success of their repeat purchase strategies. So once they put all these things into place, they know how they're doing.
Yeah. Well, the good news is we give the same kind of reporting. Well, that's not totally true, I guess. But we can show you repeat if you're a smaller brand. We can show you the same ROI metrics that we would show a larger brand. What you did say, Jess, though, earlier, is there's almost like too many metrics that we have that we get scatterbrained. I find that to be true when we have the battle of like the short-term and long-term metrics, right? So a lot of what our customers want to talk about is iROAS and how did the campaign perform in terms of incrementality, which we absolutely can do. But it's again back to what we were talking about earlier, Rich, of balancing getting more out of your existing buyers while still adding new buyers into the funnel. The new buyers are going to cost more money, right? They're going to bring down your iROAS, but that's okay because then it makes the bucket for all of your existing brand buyers bigger, and then they become more efficient over time. Yeah. So it's a bit of a balancing act, right, of all that. But we, ultimately, I think if you're talking about LTV and repeat purchase, that's exactly what you should be looking at is a repeat purchase. So of the folks that you've hit with your campaign, how many of them went on to purchase again? And we have a test and control methodology that we do. at Fetch, where we have a holdback of every audience that you're targeting. So people who actually see the offer that are in the same target. So it's a competitive buyer, but doesn't see the offer, and then someone that does, so that we can measure true incrementality and account for and control for some of the external factors that might be happening, right? So it's literally the only difference is that they didn't see that offer on Fetch. And so and then we can come back after the fact and tell you, okay, they went on to purchase again. Yes, the lift, and then later how often. And we just recently did yes, exactly. And so we recently did a meta-analysis for several of the campaigns that we ran. And we found that consumers that were exposed to brands on Fetch were 15% more likely to become new to brand, and then up to 40% more likely to repeat purchase. And then that's, the repeat purchase, but then to watch that in perpetuity and to see the fluctuations of when you're actually on Fetch and when you're not, to see how that impacts it. That level of detail we can really get to. And the other thing that I didn't mention earlier, but earning points is really a strong motivator for these consumers to choose the brand, which is why we're able to, drive that change in behavior, but we're not discounting the product. So there's no discount. You're not devaluing the price. You're not devaluing the product. It's the same price. It's just associated with a reward. And so that's very helpful when you think about, you don't want to have a race to the bottom, just continuing to discount your product, right?
That's a great distinction, and I think worth calling that out, because obviously that is a concern. And you know what, that's a concern across all industries. We've talked a lot about different size companies and different organizations, and big business doesn't want to discount, but small business can't always afford to. So being able to do this without necessarily having to, and nobody wants to devalue the product and the sort of sense of their brand. Robin, I think you've given us a lot of data that Fetch is collecting. So now, and I love, and we're going to keep misquoting you on this, but the data rich and insight poor thing is, I'm loving that. That's resonating and hitting for both Rich and I today. But I think, if you're looking to gather that insight out of the data, how is Fetch helping potentially translate the information in order to then hit that target for potential first-time buyers a little bit more effectively?
Yes. And by the way, I stole that quote from someone else. So let's just keep paying it forward.
We're going to credit it to you all day. That's,
Perfect. I love that. Well, we've already kind of established that purchase behavior is a really great indicator of past purchase, is a great indicator of future purchase. So one of my favorite examples actually about this, and specific to first-time buyers, is for a category that's near and dear to my heart, wine, talking about the change in consumer behavior. One of my clients told me a while back that it takes 2 millennials to consume the amount of wine that one boomer consumed. And I was like, very sad. I'm not a boomer, but I might consume wine at the same level as a boomer, but the millennials, Gen Z are not. So there's a challenge here, right? How do we get more people into the category? So we took a look at the data that we have to see how were consumers introduced to wine? What could we glean from behavior at that first wine purchase? And then how could we leverage that data to help this partner of ours then, structure their strategy on Fetch, but also outside of Fetch in order to capture these folks? And some key themes surfaced. One being, it's always a very inexpensive purchase, so less than $10. Second was summertime tend to be a very over-indexed for trial. The third was that if you could get them buying, they would come back and buy again. So they were worthwhile to get in if you get them in, because that's, you created that. And then the last was that liquor stores over-indexed disproportionately as the retail of choice for these purchases. So that helped to define the strategy for this client of ours, that they led with one of their entry-level bottles of wine, or entry-level price point. They had a huge promotion around summer. So, occasion driven, and specifically targeted, liquor stores. Also came into play when they were doing kind of their on-premise negotiations to get more point of sale, to get more product at retail. So can be really compelling as you think about influencing not just what you do on Fetch, but outside of Fetch as well. So
Wait,
can't
were they
say
more
we'll see.
likely to drink red or white?
Yeah, that's
Ooh, good question.
Rosé.
Well, no, I actually like it all. It
Could
depends
be.
on the season. It depends on the season.
No,
Okay.
I meant the
Summer,
consumers. Consumers,
winter red.
Robin.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me. Shoot.
What? No.
You too.
But I
Yeah,
believe
we're
you.
interested.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I
shoot. That's
I'm kind of
hilarious,
curious
Rich.
as
I
a
was like,
marketer,
oh, thank you for
as
asking.
if is a millennial more likely to purchase a
White,
bottle of red
white,
or a bottle of white?
white.
Interesting. Yeah, that's what I would
Is
have
it
guessed too.
really?
It's a gateway.
Sorry about
That's
that.
interesting.
Whoops.
No,
Everyone knows.
we're getting to know you, Robin. We're gonna our next webinar. We're just gonna drink glasses of wine and talk about marketing over. We're gonna do wine
I'm down.
pairings with.
Oh boy, I'm never gonna live this one down. This being recorded. Shoot. Okay.
I am actually surprised to hear that white is the new, and I don't know if I'm dating myself or aging myself here, but I thought everybody drank red wine. So I'm surprised to hear that that's the new thing. I am not surprised to hear that people are drinking less wine. The little mini vices, I would call them self-care, to be honest, but seem to be, people are not drinking, they're not eating junk food, they're going to gyms. Everyone's super healthy now.
Well, it's the rise in like the flexitarian diet. It's the rise, and it isn't that people aren't drinking; they're just drinking less, right? So there's a big trend of like no drinking between Monday to Friday, but then the weekends it's fair game, right?
Yeah.
Or substituting. I've been working in the non-alcoholic spirit space, and people will substitute. They'll have one mocktail, one real drink, one mocktail, one real drink, or one non-alcoholic beer, one regular beer, and like that. They cut out one consumption of the night, even though they're still socializing and they're out, with people who are drinking.
Sounds very healthy. Healthy lifestyle. I support it.
I was just thinking, I thought I was super smart because I've been doing that, and I thought I invented that, and it turns out I'm just
you're just on
one
trend.
of the crowd.
Oh, you're on trend.
You're on trend.
Okay, that's the positive way of looking at it. I'm on trend before I'm an early adopter of that. But yes, I'm also celiac, which makes it really hard because I can't drink non-alcoholic beer. So non-alcoholic cocktail is basically just fizzy water, which is fine.
Delicious. Also
less exciting. It is good for you. Okay, so Robin, we got sidetracked by alcohol real quick, which is fair. And as I said, very much looking forward to our next webinar when we just drink wine and talk about all this. But so other than the wine industry, other than the liquor industry, can you talk to us a little bit about how Fetch is actually maybe tailoring approaches a bit differently, industry to industry, when we're looking for that first time buyer?
Yes, I think we've talked a lot about, well, maybe evenly, but we talked a lot about CPG manufacturers, certainly a core client of ours, partners of ours. We really tailor the solutions that we bring to our partners based on the goals that they have. We have our team is based or set up vertically aligned to industries. They're all experts in those industries. So we pride ourselves on customer centricity and really understanding what it is. What are the challenges that particular industry and then that particular partner is facing, and how can we then leverage the insights that we have to tackle that? So of course, with CPG, and Rich will probably agree with this, it's trial, it's household penetration, it's moving units, it's innovations for awareness, maybe for innovations. Restaurants, again, it's new innovations, LTOs, limited time offers, driving adoption of their loyalty apps. We certainly can do that. We like to complement and help support some of the great apps that exist out there. And I mentioned their whole focus around lapsed and getting folks before they've actually fully lapsed. With retailers, it's about basket size, it's about driving trips, it's potentially about winning in new categories. So if you're a retailer and you generally you crush it with grocery, but you want to do better with personal care, we can help there as well. So we really tend to try and structure it based on the core goals and objectives of that particular partner. But because we have that full picture, we're able to really customize it and deliver on whatever outcomes they're trying to drive.
Well, and Rich, is that kind of in keeping with what you would see in terms of brands across industries trying to maintain, to be heard in a noisy market?
No, absolutely. No, I think um, the point that Robin made early, that you're catching consumers at a point where they're listening, is also very compelling, right? Versus just that like random ad that is in between my doom scrolling. Um,
Doom
this is,
scrolling.
this is, we're all guilty of it.
'Tis the season. Yep,
Uh,
'tis the season.
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense to serve ads when people are listening, when they're receptive, and when they're more interested in thinking about, you know, the snack I'm looking to buy, or the toothpaste that I was going to buy anyway. Now I know which brand to buy.
Okay, this is we're getting close to the end of time, which I hate to say. I hate when that little music starts to play. We've got about 10 minutes left, and so I want to shift back to something that I keep sort of saying, "I will come to this later, we'll come to this later." And I want to talk about trends. I want to talk about how things are evolving. And Robin, I'm going to kick this to you. And we've talked a lot about the challenges out there and our noisy and ever evolving market, and there's just lots of opportunity and lots of stuff happening all the time, which is both positive and a negative. So let's talk about how that all funnels down into trends, into what's happening, and where are you seeing, or those trends going when it comes to customer retention and overall lifetime value.
Yes. Well, I'd say we recently did a study through, I think it was Wakefield Research, that interviewed CMOs, and 90% of them said that long-term loyalty and long-term consumer relationships, the importance of it has really increased over the past 5 years. But yet it's hard to do, right? It's harder than ever. A lot of CPG companies are sunsetting their loyalty programs. I hear that trend a lot. It's really hard to have a quote unquote like loyalty program, to run it accurately, to make sure that it's got fresh, folks in it, that there's the right value for the consumer. I think Rich mentioned this earlier, the younger generations are even more fickle and less brand loyal. What was the stat? 80% of Gen Z said that they would ditch their favorite brand if they found a similar quality but lower priced option to replace it. And I read an article on Lululemon's earnings recently and how they're struggling because of that exact thing, right? These younger generations are just going to Amazon and getting a dupe. Yes, I know what that means. And so it's harder than ever to earn their loyalty, but yet it's more important than ever because there's so many choices out there, and it's just harder and harder to continue to, grow the bottom line. The good news is that there's a way to earn their attention and their dollar. And I would love Rich's opinion too. I'm sure you're going to ask him, but by being personalized, a lot of what we've talked about, like the generations expect, we as consumers, not just the younger gens, but like we expect personalization. We want it on our time. We want omni-channel options for purchasing. We want it to be personalized based on what we want to see. I don't mind if I was looking at a piece of furniture online and then it follows me around everywhere I go until I buy it. I don't mind that because it's relevant, right? And so that's number one. Number two is that, price is important in folks' decision. And they would join loyalty programs. I think it was 81% of younger Gen Zs would join a loyalty program if it meant they could get rewards. So they want to have kind of a two-way value exchange from brands in order to earn their purchases and earn their loyalty. And so there's a way to get to that point. It's just harder than it has been before.
Well,
I don't know,
Rich,
do you agree with that?
Yeah, I am going to ask you to chime in on that. What are the trends you're seeing?
No, I totally agree with Robin. It's becoming harder, and it's funny to the Duke point. Like, there's dupe.com now. That is like, it'll just help you find whatever you need to find. Yes. Furniture shopping, I recommend, but I digress. It's consumers are ever more fickle, but we're also now ever more used to the couch that follows us through the internet. It used to be very awkward. It used to be weird. It used to be really creepy. Now consumers just realize that your phone's listening, and it is what it is. But hey, I had a friend that went down the rabbit hole of eliminating all of the cookies and all of the trackers and going bananas on the privacy thing, and then he got wildly irrelevant ads, which he realized was way worse and so annoying to like be served like senior living ads when he's somebody in his 30s, than like having ads that speak to you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think consumers are see the value, and those are the ads that actually break through the clutter.
Agreed.
Well,
agreed.
That's, I think, very important, and something that I think we can all, and I think all of us have probably gone through that personally as well, that journey, that balance between privacy and personalization. And luckily we have things that are kind of helping us navigate that as consumers, and from the industry as well through Fetch. And that's where I'd like to leave things, as much as I don't want to leave things at all, because what I'd rather do is crack open a bottle of wine and chit chat about marketing trends all day. But since we have about 4 minutes left, Robin, I'm going to ask you to kind of bring us home with a little bit of information on how Fetch is helping address these trends, and just kind of any sort of final and key thoughts, maybe a little bit of advice for anyone out there in the audience that is thinking about how they can kind of maximize their own customer lifetime value.
Yes, we are always evolving our technology. We are always like reevaluating and expanding on our data capabilities as we look at industry trends. I think we're well positioned as we look at like the future and what that holds in terms of where things are going in this industry. Certainly, it's going to be more personalization. Rich mentioned this earlier with the proliferation of AI and LLM. Like, it's going to get even more personalized, and so our ability to be able to deliver there is certainly going to help differentiate. I think social and community proof will continue to be what we'll see that to continue to expand. The idea of buying and what your friends are recommending. We have a part of our app that is a timeline and a social feed as well, that you can see all your friends and families and what they're purchasing in their brands, and you can interact with that. So that's great. But I think we'll continue to see influencers play a role, especially with younger demographics. And then just this idea of like instant gratification, consumers becoming more and more fickle, but like also picky, and needing to have an instant, that feeling of being surprised and delighted, or, getting exactly what it is you were trying to purchase online. So all of those trends are pretty consistent with what we see coming, and I think we're well positioned to capitalize on them. In terms of what advice would I give, just start with the consumer. As we talked about earlier, we were joking, some companies not even thinking about what the consumer wants, but start with your consumer and understanding exactly what motivates them, and then personalizing the marketing, the advertising, the communication that you have for them is going to be key in really driving value over time.
Well, I think that's great advice, and I'm sure Rich is going to record that and play it to all of his clients later. But I think, I'm sorry that we have to leave things there, because there's clearly so much more that we could dig into and explore with all of these topics. I am going to ask you guys each for kind of a next step. And Rich, maybe I'll ask you to kick us off, and Robin, bring us home. But if somebody wanted to get a little bit more information, what you would recommend, and Rich, if you want to give us kind of a general first step, and then Robin, if we can ask you to tell us how to get in touch with Fetch, that'd be great. Rich, kick us off.
Yeah, I mean, to Robin's point, yes, like, your consumer is king. Consumers vote with their dollars, and they have the ability to make your brand grow or not. So starting with the consumer and understanding and empathizing and realizing that you as a brand owner are not your consumer, is probably the best first step.
Great first step. All right, Robin, how do we reach out to Fetch?
So in the handout section, you can
Yep.
find a link to our website and form there we can fill out, and we will be happy to get in touch with you. We would love to chat.
Love that. Nice and easy. To both of you, I want to thank you guys for coming on. This is as I said at the top, this is my favorite kind of webinar, when we get to just sit around and have a conversation. I feel like we're just having dinner at a cafe and chit-chatting about cool stuff and all the cool things you guys are excited about. So I want to thank you for being willing to kind of take us through the minds of the experts along with you today. And thanks for coming to chat with us. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks so much, Jess. Thanks,
Awesome.
Rich.
Thank you.
And we are going to make sure that all the questions asked do get answers back. So if you got a question in and we didn't get time to get to your Q&A, I know that we had to rush through that today. So please do keep those questions coming in. We will make sure that you get responses back. Also, a reminder to visit that handouts tab. Some great handouts and takeaways. Definitely go and click on that link over to the Fetch site. Make sure you spend some time with that website after we wrap. Make sure you connect with Fetch on LinkedIn. There's so much more information to dig into. Now that we've wrapped up the webinar, this is only just the start, right? There's more conversation to be had, so make sure you reach out. All right, well, before we come to a complete close here, I do want to say that we have one more piece of exciting information, and that is our prize winner. So we have a $250 Amazon gift card today going to Dana Tiley from Colorado. Dana Tiley from Colorado. Congratulations to you, Dana. As always, we will get in touch with you about claiming your prize after we wrap, so stay tuned for that. Well, with that, I apologize. We're right at time here. We had to sign off very quickly because there was just so much to cover. What an incredible conversation. I have to say, on behalf of the Smart Brief team, a giant thank you to Fetch, our sponsor, for making this webinar possible and for their continued innovation in driving customer loyalty and retention. I'm hoping that for all of you out there today, you're feeling like you've sparked some new ideas, some new strategies that you're going to bring to your team. You're going to explore the Fetch website and introduce that and talk about it with everybody over the water cooler or on your next call, whatever, whether you're virtual or in person. And as we wrap up our conversation today, my biggest thank you, a huge thank you to Robin and Rich, but to all of you for taking the time out of your day to join in, for asking questions, for helping participate in this conversation, because absolutely none of this is possible without all of you being a part of these discussions. So thank you for joining us at the cafe today, whether you're about to go have a wine or a non-alcoholic beverage or a coffee, whatever it is. I want to thank you for spending some time in your day, learning a little bit alongside us and being a part of this wonderful conversation. I hope that I'll get to see you all again at a webinar soon. And until then, have an absolutely beautiful end to your day.